The sun rose over the mountains, casting a golden light over the battlefield. The sound of clashing swords and shields echoed through the narrow pass of Thermopylae, where a small force of 300 Spartans and a few hundred other Greek warriors stood their ground against the mighty Persian army. King Leonidas, the leader of the Spartans, stood at the forefront of the battle, his face set in a determined scowl. He knew that the odds were against them, but he also knew that their courage and determination would carry them through. The Persians attacked after attack, but the Greeks held their ground, fighting with all their might. The Persians were shocked by the ferocity of the Greeks, who seemed to be unaffected by the overwhelming numbers against them. As the day wore on, the battle raged on, with no sign of either side backing down. The Greeks fought with all their strength, taking down countless Persians as they fought to protect their land. As the sun began to set, the Persians finally retreated, their numbers significantly reduced. The Greeks cheered as they watched the Persians retreat, knowing that they had successfully held them off for another day. But they knew that the battle was far from over, and that they would have to face the Persians again the next day. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of triumph, knowing that they had proven their worth and earned the respect of their enemies. The second day of the Battle of Thermopylae was a day of relentless fighting for the Greeks. The Persians had arrived in full force, their army numbering in the hundreds of thousands, and they were determined to break through the narrow pass and conquer all of Greece. But the Greeks, led by Leonidas and his brave 300 Spartans, were just as determined to hold their ground. They knew that the fate of their entire country was at stake, and they were willing to risk everything to defend it. The Persians' attack came in waves, with foot soldiers, archers, and cavalry all charging at the Greeks at once. But the Greeks fought with such skill and ferocity that they were able to hold their own, cutting down the Persians by the hundreds with their swords and spears. As the day drew to a close, both sides were battered and exhausted, but the Persians had still not been able to break through the Greek lines. The Battle of Thermopylae was far from over, but for now, the Greeks had held their ground. It was the fourth day of the Battle of Thermopylae, and the Persian army seemed to be gaining the upper hand. Despite the bravery and determination of the Greek warriors, they were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. It seemed that their fate was sealed. But Leonidas and his 300 Spartans were not ones to go down without a fight. They stood their ground, fighting with all their might and taking down countless Persians. The Persians were shocked by the ferocity of the Greeks, and many began to fear that they might not be able to defeat them. However, their victory was not meant to be. A traitor revealed a secret path that the Persians could use to attack the Greeks from behind. Realizing that they were doomed, Leonidas ordered the majority of his men to retreat, while he and a handful of others stayed behind to fight to the death. As the Persians closed in, Leonidas and his brave warriors fought with all their might, taking down countless Persians before finally falling. Their sacrifice allowed the rest of the Greek army to retreat and regroup, eventually leading to the Greeks' victory in the war. The fall of Leonidas was a defining moment in the Battle of Thermopylae, and his bravery and determination have inspired countless stories and tales. His legacy lives on to this day, reminding us all that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage and determination can conquer all. The legacy of Leonidas and the 300 Spartans lives on to this day as a symbol of bravery, honor, and sacrifice. Their story has inspired countless tales and myths, and their bravery has been celebrated in poetry, song, and literature. For centuries, people have looked to the example of Leonidas and his men as a source of inspiration and courage. They are remembered as heroes who fought and died for their country, and their sacrifice is still honored and revered by the people of Greece. But their legacy extends far beyond the borders of their homeland. The story of Leonidas and the 300 Spartans has been told and retold countless times, and it has inspired people all over the world to face their fears, to stand up for what they believe in, and to fight for what is right. The legacy of Leonidas and the 300 Spartans will live on forever, as a shining example of what it means to be a true hero.